Today I would like to invite you to listen to the Dhammapada of the Buddha Shakyamuni, the 89th verse from the Buddhist scriptures on the YouTube channel TN Thai in the USA, whose minds are well perfected in the factors of enlightenment, who, without clinging, delight in the giving up of grasping. They, the corruption-free and shining ones, have attained nibbana even in this world. When the Blessed One spoke these words, he revealed the rare fragrance of inner purity that arises when a practitioner ripens the mind through understanding, compassion, mindfulness, and profound calm. These words point directly to the transformation of consciousness. They speak of the serene ones who have walked the path with unwavering steadiness and who have realized peace not as a distant realm, but as a living presence here and now. As we sit together in this moment, let us allow the meaning of this verse to settle deeply into the heart, for it offers a doorway to understanding what it means to let go of the burdens we carry and to awaken to a clarity that shines like a crystal untouched by dust. To hear this verse is to be invited into a space of stillness, where the doorway to enlightenment gently opens. The mind that is trained, the heart that is gentle, and the insight that is steady unite into a single stream flowing toward liberation. In that spirit, let us enter the story and the teaching behind this verse with reverence and calm. In the time of the Blessed One, there lived a group of monks who practiced with great sincerity. Their days were spent in the quiet forests and peaceful groves surrounding the monasteries. Among them were monks who had dedicated themselves to cultivating the 7 factors of enlightenment. Mindfulness was their constant companion. Investigation of reality illuminated their reflections. Energy sustained their efforts. Joy uplifted the heart. Tranquility softened the breath. Concentration stabilized the mind. Equanimity provided a spaciousness where all things could arise and pass without disturbance. These monks did not seek recognition nor wished for praise. They walked silently and lived simply. Their food was humble and their dwelling modest. Yet within their minds, a luminosity was forming, quiet yet steady, profound yet gentle. At that time, a traveling monk came across these practitioners and observed them with deep admiration. He noticed the calmness in their steps, the gentleness in their gestures, the softness in their tone, and the radiance in their presence. Feeling inspired, he approached the Blessed One and asked how these monks were able to reach such extraordinary clarity. The Buddha replied with the verse that the heart experiences freedom from clinging. When clinging falls away, the mind rests like a still lake unbroken by wind. And when the mind is free from impurities, nibbana is known directly, not as an intellectual understanding, but as an unshakable peace. The Blessed One continued by telling the story of how these monks had once struggled before their minds became luminous. They were not unlike any one of us. They faced waves of discouragement. They faced restlessness. They faced doubt. Sometimes their thoughts wandered, and sometimes their efforts weakened. Yet because they trusted the teachings and practiced steadily, their hearts gradually softened. The Buddha explained that even practitioners who eventually shine with purity often begin with unsettled minds. But like a pot of muddy water left undisturbed, clarity begins to appear when the agitation settles. The monks in the story had learned to settle their minds by continually returning to mindfulness. They observed each breath without pushing and each thought without chasing. They allowed each feeling to come and go without building stories around them. Little by little, the old habits of craving, aversion, and confusion loosened their grip, and one day, the inner radiance of freedom blossomed. This verse emphasizes that these practitioners delight in the giving up of grasping. This delight is not the excitement of worldly pleasure nor the thrill of achievement. It is the gentle joy that comes from no longer being entangled in the endless patterns of desire. It is the peace that arises when the heart is no longer pulled in every direction by wanting something, fearing something, or resisting something. When grasping is abandoned, the mind becomes vast. When craving dissolves, the heart becomes light. When impurities fade, the inner light becomes visible. The Buddha used the phrase the shining ones to describe such beings because their presence radiates calm. Their speech is pure. Their actions reflect wisdom. Their thoughts align with compassion. Even without proclaiming their awakening, the atmosphere around them becomes serene. This is the fragrance of liberation. Sometimes we think nibbana is far away, like a distant star in a sky we cannot reach. But the Buddha reminds us that nibbana is a state of freedom that begins in the present moment, not after death, not in another realm, but here, in the very mind that hears these teachings. When the mind stops clinging, even for a breath, something opens. We glimpse the possibility of peace. The monks in the story did not find freedom by escaping the world or by denying their human experience. They found freedom by transforming their relationship with experience. They observed each moment with mindfulness and rested in awareness. They trained the mind to stay present without being swayed. Over time, this training created a stable foundation for insight. And through insight, they recognized the nature of all things. They saw that all experiences arise and pass. They saw that nothing can be held on to. They saw that clinging brings suffering, and that letting go brings peace. The verse concludes by describing these beings as corruption-free. This means the greed that once disturbed the heart has dissolved. The anger that once burned within has quieted. The confusion that once clouded the mind has cleared. Without these impurities, the mind becomes like a clear sky after a storm. Everything becomes open. Everything becomes calm. Everything becomes spacious. These shining ones walk through the world with a heart unburdened. They move gently. They speak kindly. They see clearly. Their minds have become so refined that even the challenges of the world do not disturb them. They live among people, but are not caught in the currents of worldly turbulence. They experience life, but remain free from attachment. Thus, in this first reflection, let us hold the verse with reverence. It is an invitation to training, an encouragement to continue, and a reminder that liberation is possible. Even now, as you hear these words, the seed of awakening is present within you. It may be quiet, it may be small, but it is alive, with the nourishment of mindfulness, energy, understanding, compassion, and steady intention. That seed can grow into a radiant tree of wisdom. Just as the monks in the story reached clarity through perseverance, so too can each of us nurture the qualities that lead to peace. This verse is a reminder that the path is open. The light shines quietly, and the heart that walks gently upon the Dharma will surely awaken. When we enter deeper into the spirit of the Blessed Ones teaching, we discover that the freedom spoken of in the verse is not a distant treasure guarded by mystical barriers, but a natural unfolding of the heart when it is purified by understanding. The Buddha compared the mind to a lamp that can shine brilliantly once the soot is cleared. In the same way, the factors of enlightenment are like gentle winds that sweep away the obscurations, resting on the surface of consciousness. As the meditator cultivates these qualities, the mind gains strength and clarity. It becomes refined in perception, patient in difficulty, compassionate in reflection, and wise in response. This transformation is not sudden. It unfolds quietly, like the dawn rising on the horizon, illuminating the world moment by moment. Sometimes the change is so subtle that the practitioner does not even notice it until a situation arises that once caused agitation but now leaves the heart unshaken. That tranquility is the sign that wisdom has begun to blossom. In the time of the Buddha, many seekers approached the Blessed One with uncertainty. They came with the burdens of fear, loneliness, sorrow, and confusion. They carried the wounds of their past and the shadows of their habits. Some found it difficult to sit even for a short moment without restlessness. Others felt overwhelmed by anger or clouded by desire. The Blessed One welcomed them with compassion, reminding them that even the Shining Ones were once struggling practitioners. No one begins the path with a pure mind. Everyone begins with uncertainty, but the Dharma provides a map, and the community offers support. The individual must supply patience and sincerity. When these elements come together, the journey unfolds naturally. One of the wandering ascetics who visited the Buddha asked why the monks in his retinue seemed so peaceful. The Buddha explained that peace does not arise from rituals or from external practices alone. True calm comes from seeing the nature of the mind. When one observes the mind with mindfulness, one begins to understand how thoughts arise, how emotions dance, how perceptions shift, and how reactions form. Through this understanding, the practitioner sees that nothing is solid and nothing is worth clinging to. The more this insight deepens, the more the heart relaxes. As the heart relaxes, the grip of craving weakens. As craving weakens, suffering diminishes. This is how the Shining Ones become free. Not through escape, but through insight. This verse celebrates those who delight in letting go. This delight is not an escape from the world, but a liberation from bondage. When the mind no longer grasps at what it desires, it experiences a gentle joy that cannot be disturbed by gain or loss. Such joy is stable. It does not depend on circumstances. It does not rise and fall with praise or blame. It does not contract in difficulty or swell in pleasure. It remains steady like a mountain unmoved by the wind. The Shining Ones carry this stability within them. Whether they walk through a bustling village or a quiet forest, their inner space remains wide and open. Their mind is perfected in the factors of enlightenment. Their heart is serene. Their consciousness is free. In the story associated with this verse, the monks who reached enlightenment did so not because they were favored by destiny or blessed with special powers. They succeeded because they understood the nature of practice. They did not cling to progress nor despair over obstacles. They simply continued to cultivate mindfulness, energy, joy, calm, concentration, and equanimity. They watched their breath, observed their thoughts, examined their feelings, and reflected on the impermanence of all conditions. At times they faced challenges that seemed overwhelming. But through each challenge, they returned to awareness. Awareness became their refuge, their teacher, and their guide. In the stillness of awareness, the illusions that once kept them trapped began to dissolve like mist under the morning sun. The Shining Ones are called corruption-free because the impurities that once clouded their minds have been uprooted. These impurities include greed that burns like fire, hatred that cuts like a blade, and ignorance that blinds like darkness. When these are removed, the heart becomes like a lotus, rising from the mud, untouched by the water surrounding it. The lotus does not reject the water, but remains unstained by it. Likewise, the enlightened ones live in the world but are not affected by its storms. They see things as they are, without distortion. They respond to situations with compassion, not fear. They speak with clarity, not confusion. They act with intention, not impulse. Their presence itself becomes a teaching. In our daily lives, we can take inspiration from this verse by cultivating mindfulness throughout the day. Mindfulness can accompany you as you wake, as you walk, as you work, and as you rest. It is not limited to meditation halls or quiet groves. Even when you face difficulties, mindfulness can help you pause, breathe, and respond with wisdom, rather than react with habit. When you observe your feelings without grasping, you already begin the practice of release. When you notice your thoughts without identifying with them, the mind becomes lighter. When you let go of the urge to control everything, the heart begins to open. Little by little, freedom grows. And one day, like the monks of old, you may discover that the peace you sought has been within you all along. The Blessed One's verse invites each of us to taste the sweetness of release. not through force, not through avoidance, but through clear seeing. When the mind is perfected in the factors of enlightenment, it becomes capable of embracing life without clinging. It becomes gentle in difficulty and patient in uncertainty. It becomes compassionate toward others and kind toward itself. This is the journey of the practitioner. This is the fragrance of liberation. This is the path of awakening. As we prepare to close this reflection, let the meaning of this verse rest gently in your heart. May the image of the shining ones remind you that liberation is possible even in this world. May the example of the monks inspire you to cultivate mindfulness, joy, calm, concentration, and equanimity. May the teaching of the Blessed One lead you to see that the peace you long for arises when the heart releases its grasp. When grasping dissolves, peace blossoms. When insight deepens, freedom appears. When the mind becomes clear, the path becomes bright. Thank you for watching my video. Namo Amit Ba. I wish to bring this merit towards all disciples and sentient beings, all of whom will attain Buddhahood. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate your time.